In a moment, episode 2 of Good Omens after this. Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd, and on the episode 2 of Good Omens, we find a few things out. We learn about Adam, who was the Antichrist, who Crowley had delivered to the hospital and handed it over to the wrong room. And therefore, through a switcheroo of babies, we have Adam going with the Youngs, whose child went to the American diplomats, whose child went we don't know where, and they're not going to tell us. And they introduce us to the group of children who are under kind of the direction of Adam. He comes up with the best games, they say, and that was all in the book. That the them were a group of children who were doing different kinds of things, and they had such a reputation they didn't even need a name. They were just them. And we're introduced to the various members of them. And while the book goes in greater detail of each of the characters, we're just given their names and the occasional line from them. And they are never really developed as far as we can tell. But Adam, we know from the book and from other things, is he's going to have an important part in the story. So we are following Adam and what he does. We also meet Anathema Device. She is the descendant of Agnes Nutter. Agnes Nutter is in the title of the book of Good Omens, the subtitle of it, based on the perfect predictions of Agnes Nutter, Witch. And the descendant, some 300 years later, is Anathema Device. She has been taught through the generations of what is in the book of predictions and has put them all on cards in order to memorize them, which will come in handy. We have in flashback Agnes Nutter, who writes the predictions, predicted that she was going to be burned as a witch, and in fact that the people who came, the Witchfinder General at that time, who was by the name of Pulsifer, was actually a little bit late in executing her. And so she had a good surprise as to how she was to meet her end as they burned her. She had her dress loaded with gunpowder and roofing nails, which made quite an explosion and hit everybody that was gathered around to watch. A good way to go, I guess, if you have to go. Anyway, so we are introduced to Agnes Nutter and her very accurate predictions, as the narrator tells us. Now, we also see the first of the four horsemen that will be involved later in the story. War, we see first. And we also see some characters that were not mentioned in the book. In fact, we find that Crowley and Aziraphale are pretty much alone as far as the angels and demons are concerned. But in this television play, they are enhanced. And so Aziraphale and Crowley are having to go and talk with their superiors in various places. They introduced John Hamm as Michael, the Archangel, and so there is some bureaucratic difficulties that they have in order to try to keep what they're doing between the two of them, between Aziraphale and Crowley. But at any rate, in this, one of the angels has kind of a funny line in that you can't have war, without the war of the four horsemen. And war is something that the angels want, because this is supposed to be Armageddon. It is part of the grand plan, and everybody is for it. And Aziraphale has some shall we say, some second thoughts about all of this, and perhaps that the good thing to do would be to try to prevent it. And he and Crowley try in that way in order to try to prevent the earth from being destroyed. Not to try to rebel, but try to guess what the grand plan might be, and maybe they have some part in it. at any rate, that's where the horseman and the angel and demon are at this point, and they are looking for the Antichrist. They have shown themselves to be good at disguises and have staked out the home of the U.S. diplomat who had actually the young's natural child rather than the Antichrist. And so it wasn't until his 11th birthday that they found out that having not come into his own and the hellhound doesn't find him, that there is something wrong. And now they're both having to scramble to find the real Antichrist and to do something about it before the world comes to an end. So the scramble begins, and that's when we start with what's actually in the book. So much of this is backstory and useful information that makes the book a little more clear. And so that's what we have, a very expository episode 2. Now, I'd like to know what you think about it. Please write us in the comments of what you think. And if you've forged ahead, we probably are forging ahead a little bit too. We'll try to keep these videos, though, on one episode at a time, even if they come out a little faster than we had originally intended. But at any rate, we'll do it one at a time. So any way that you want to watch it or binge it, you'll be able to keep up with it with us at least. So that's the plan there. So please subscribe and ring the bell so you know when the next video is coming out. It'll probably come in sooner than this one did. So stay with us, if you will. And until next time, next video, don't go far.